Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. In this episode, we're going to be continuing our DM box series where we're filling up a whole box full of goodies for a new Dungeon Master. As I've been putting together all of these elements from the last few videos, I'm starting to pack it in, trying to figure out what space I have left and what I can fill that space with. So in this episode, I'm going to fill some of the larger space of the box with some basic hills. These are just kind of rocky cliff faces, and I think I would like them better if I could put some other things on them like grass or snow or something that would tie in elements, but I decided to leave them really basic rock cliffs. That way they can be used in whatever setting you want in this Ultimate Dungeon Terrain setting. So if you're in a desert area, you've got rock cliffs. If you're in a grassy area, you've got rock cliffs. If you're in the snow, you still have rock cliffs. You have to use your imagination a little bit on these if you want to imagine some snow or ice on them, but you still have the cliffs and it can work in really any setting. It could even work in a cave if you really wanted it to. So these can be used pretty generically and just kind of filled up the rest of the box. So let's go to the table and see how these are done.
Before I began working on the Bluffs, I measured the interior of the box that I'm packing into and found kind of the square sizes of available space that I had to work with. So I measured all of those spaces out on a piece of foam just so I'd have the base amounts of space that I would be able to play with. From there, I started tracing on just kind of random rough bluff hill shapes that I knew I could pack into those existing spaces. From there, I just trace onto consistently smaller sections and kind of stack them on top of each other. I'm using 3/4 inch XPS foam, and I'm carving away even before gluing it just to give it some rough shape. Once I have that shape in place, then I'm using some hot glue to glue each of the stacked sections to the lower section below it. From there, I started doing a little bit more of a fine cut and shaping to the hills. I'm cutting away, just trying to smooth out the hills so you don't see much of those terrace sections. I'm using a blade and cutting in some horizontal sections to add some different depth, different angles, etc., and get rid of those smooth finished top edges, just trying to make it look as much like natural stone as possible. Now I'm using the blade and cutting into the stone from all sorts of different angles, and then using a flat part of a screwdriver, I'm pressing firmly into the side of the stone to peel away some of the pieces that want to come away a little bit more easily. Here I slowed it down just a little bit so you can see how that screwdriver is pressed more firmly in. I'm not trying to tear the entire side of the hill out. I'm just pushing in enough to pull some of the pieces away and even separate some of the cracks to make it look like it's naturally splitting rock. For the flatter pieces, I just simply cut horizontal cuts in to make it a little bit more stepped and terraced. I'm using some tinfoil rolled up and pressing pretty firmly into the side to give it a nice stone texture, especially on the top sections that otherwise might be pretty smooth. Using some white glue and hitting some of the cracks and edges and then pouring sand on. This will give it a little bit more texture than just the styrofoam. Once that's dry, using the black paint and Mod Podge mixture to give it a nice base coat. From there, it's the dark brown undercoat. Then it's a sandy dry brush over the top. And last, I'm using a lighter tan just to hit some highlights and give some variation to the piece. And there's the finished product. Pretty simple project. It doesn't take very long, but you end up with some really nice looking results. Experiment with the knife cutting method. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but once you have it, it really turns out really nice. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.